Okay, so yesterday we did the non-rabbinic views on what does Mimacharat Hashabbat mean, and we noted from the Mishnah how much of a polemic this really was, such that they had to put on this whole play and show, and is it time? Yes. Cut? Yes. This scythe? Yes. This barrel? Yes. Etc. Etc. But now let us look at how we got to where we are. So let's just take it from the beginning, okay? Because it'll help frame what we're up to. So the Gemara says, Tana Rabbanan. This is the Gemara at Samachem and Aleph. Yosef.
Yeah, I just reset the message and work.
Okay, fine. Tana Rabbanan. Elaine Yomaya Delo Lihitana Beho. Umiktato Delo Min Lemispad Beho. These are the days that you aren't allowed to fast, and some of them you can't even eulogize. If you remember, we actually had shir already on this line. For people who were here, I don't think you were here back. Maybe you were back. I don't know. On Tanit Esther, because the Shita Mekubetzet here invokes Tanit Esther, which is one of the exceptions to this rule, seemingly, because one of the days you can't fast and eulogize is Purim, and the normal halacha is that the day before and the day after those days you also can't fast. Tanit Esther is a flagrant violation of that law. So that's what we dealt with last week.
The timing was off by what it originally was.
So we talked about what is the nature of this, when did it come, etc. So the first 8 days of Nisan, Itokam Tmida, that was when the Karban Tamid was set up properly, and the Chachamim managed to win their debate against the Stukim. Deloli mispaid, umitmnaya bevatzov moadai tozu chaga de shavuaya, and from the 8th until the end of Pesach, the Chachamim won their debate against the Tzdukim, the Baitusim in this case, and therefore Dlolit so we also don't fast on those days. So what does this all mean? And what you see here is that both on the days that they won against the Tzdukim in their battle about the Tamid, which we'll see in a moment, and the days that they won their battle about the Omer, both of those are celebratory, but the battle against the Tzdukim was even more celebratory, and therefore you can't fast or eulogize. It was such a happy day that we beat the Tzdukim when it came to the Karban Tamid. And the battle against the Baitusim was not as simple. It was not as simple. Let me read you just from here. They just put it very simply. They summarize the Gemara as follows here in the footnote of the Mesivta, which is what I have with me. He says, why was it a bigger simcha to beat the Tzdukim than the Baitusim? Because he said, "Shilagabe atzeret lo haita baitusim pasuk mochiach uvekal nitzchu mashein ken lagabe karbanot tamid shayla baitusim pasuk mochiach lechora kishitaam lo dachum bekalut." He said because it was harder for us to disprove them when it came to the tamid than it was to the baitusim, which is interesting because, as we talked about yesterday, there are many different interpretations and good reasons at first glance to interpret the psukim non-rabbinically. So this is an interesting way to take it. So the Gemara then says, what does that mean? What was the story? What was the machloket between the tzdukim and the rabbis about the Karban Tamid? Is an individual allowed to bring, right, Sorry, what I said was also from Rashi. I just gave it to you in modern Hebrew. Rashi said this is all right. The law of Simcha Yitera b'shel atzeret shvel tamid shel atzeret lo haya shum raya l'divrei by two sin. Aval b'tamid ayta raya l'divrei v'chavayim mefarish l'kaman. So the first machloket was who can bring the tamid. Can the tamid be brought only as an individual karban? Even as an individual karban, or only as a communal karban? And we talked about last week the uniqueness of communal karbanot. Remember? Coercion on it, etc. My drosh, what was the rationale for the tzdukim on that point? And akeves ha'echad taseh baboker, then akeves ha'sheni taseh ben harabayim. The pasuk by the tamid, what does it say? Ta'aseh, you shall make. Anyone who knows Hebrew grammar, what is ta'aseh? Singular. Second person. Future. You shall bring. Or in the future, you will bring. It's not actually a command in modern Hebrew, right? Which would be aseh. But as we know, even in modern Hebrew, sometimes the future tense and sivui, people aren't so makbid on this, so yes. So the tzdukim it says, ta'aseh. What does that sound like? You, an individual, bring the karban. So my ahadru, what was the rabbinic response? Et karbani lachmi liishai tishmiru. Plural. Sheyu kulan b'ayim mitrumat alishka. From which we learn that all of these karbanot come from the communal coffers. Mitimnaya bevat sof moada, from the 8th of Nisan until the end of Pesach, totav chaga de shavuaya, Shavuot was established. Delola mispei. So what was the machloket? And now we get to the machloket. Now we get to the rabbinic versus non-rabbinic position on this. I'm sorry your flight got canceled. Okay, but you have a flight for next week.
Yeah, 20
Okay. So, we'll ease out, get closure, and then we'll miss you. At the moment, I'm not allowed to come visit you in Canada, so eventually.
But eventually.
All the other members of my family can, but I am not a Canadian citizen.
Right.
I'll send them all to say hello for me.
Wait, you never had citizenship, or you lost the citizenship?
I never had citizenship. I was on a work visa.
You were on a work visa because before you were in America, right?
I'm American.
Yeah, I've heard.
I'm American, so I was on a work visa in Canada, so yes. Okay, not important. Shahayu, now anyone listening to the shir, I know how many citizenships you have. Okay. Next I should just give them my social security number, my passport number. Okay. Shahayu Baitusin Omrim, the Baitusin said, Atzeret Achar Hashabbat, Shavuot, is always on a Sunday. Because Sfirat HaOmer always starts on a Sunday. And as we all know, therefore 7 weeks later will still be a Sunday. This is pretty easy. In general, right? We should all be able to predict things like that. What day of the week will it be in a week from today? It will be whatever it is today. That's pretty easy. Same thing true in 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and 7. So, here's the machloket. Now, here's the fight. Nitba lohen Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai v'amar lohem shoitim minayin lochem. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said, you idiots, how do you know? Why do you think that it only comes on Sunday? Now, someone be a heretical polemicist for a moment and tell me, how did they know that Shavuot is on Sunday? Because it says on Sunday. That's a good kasha. It actually calls it Sunday, but this is polemic. So he says, idiots, what are you doing? Shoitim. Now this is weird, right? You would have think that someone would have just said, here's the answer, but this is weird. right? Because everyone is scared of him. So apparently, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was a very good fighter for the Masorah. So he said, so no, everyone was afraid to engage him in conversation, except for one elderly Baitusi, who Shahaya mifatpeit kenegdo v'amar lo Moshe Rabbeinu Olav Yisrael Haya. So remember, I mentioned this is a little bit more explicit in the Skolio and Megillah Ta'anit, but here's a version of the Gemara. It said, I'll tell you why Shavuos has to be on Sunday. Because Moshe loved the Jewish people. V'yodeh she'atzeret yom echad hu amad v'tikna achar Shabbat k'dei shizrom mitan shnei yamin. Everyone likes a long weekend. And Moshe Rabbeinu knew that Jews would like long weekends, so he set up a long weekend. That's what he says. Now I find this line incredible, because if this Gemara is accurate, right, as opposed to a polemicized version of this, you would think that what would the guy tell him? Is it Mimacharat Shabbat? Right? But what is the Gemara doing? This is what the Marsha's point is. The Marsha makes the point here that clearly, what is the emphasis of this Gemara? That in Chazal's mind, Yom Tov and Shabbat are so equated. And it is so normal to call Yom Tov Shabbat, that what? It didn't even enter their mind that was a kasha. Right? The polemical version that Chazal construct of this machloket with the Baitusi assumes that they are so convinced of their read that Shabbat can just as easily mean Shabbat Breshit, Saturday, as it means Yom Tov, that's not even the argument. Right? Which is amazing. Right? Because remember, yesterday we took the whole assumption for an hour. And every time we went through the question, why would you say that it should mean Sunday? What was the answer every time? It said Mimacharat Shabbat. I understand why they would say Mimacharat Shabbat is Sunday. It sounds like Sunday. Right? It sounds like Sunday. But at this stage in the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, at least in this polemical construct, it's not just that he says, I hear your point, but I have other reasons to say that Shabbat here means Yom Tov. What is he clearly saying? That's a kasha. It says after Shabbos. Why would you think Shabbos means Shabbos? Shabbos does just as easily mean Wednesday. Right? Which is incredible. I want you to keep that in mind. That is incredible.
Incredible how you could come to such a definition.
It's incredible how convinced Chazal are that this is the only way to read the pasuk. But we're going to see, hold that thought, because there's going to be someone in the Gemara who's not so convinced. A member of Chazal who's not so convinced. So I want you to pay very close attention. Yes?
Does that ever read like anywhere else?
Well, what?
Does that ever read anywhere else?
No! That's amazing. Right? I said, the shir yesterday and today, this is not a lumdish shir. I am just going through drushot. But it's an entire Amud of the Gemara, so there's nothing I can do about it. Right? And I think it's important you understand this. But think about it. Right? They're saying that, and in the Gemara's construct, I'll push it farther. It's not just the rabbis don't even have a Havamina. What's amazing with this Gemara, Gafi? The Baitusi doesn't even bother saying, what do you mean, why do I say that it's on Sunday? It says Sunday. No, the Baitusi, in defending his position, the Gemara records, it says, I'll tell you why it has to be Sunday, because Jews like long weekends. I mean, it's mind-boggling. It's mamish. Right? This is the Gemara is telling you that that's the argument. That's the argument. Not, it says so in the Torah, and here's a nice svara, which is God wants you to have a long weekend. It's no. The reason I say it's on Sunday is because Moshe Olav Yisrael Haya. Moshe loved the Jews, so he expressed by giving them long weekends.
Is it?
Right? It's like Toronto. Right? And like Canada. It's unbelievable. Right? They love their people, so they give them at least one long weekend every month. Doesn't matter. America has one. We call it President's Day. Canada, at least Ontario, calls it Family Day. What's Family Day celebrating? That is February, and you need a day off. That's the only thing it celebrates, right? They tried Simcoe Day, but I think at some point, at least in certain provinces, it's just August statutory holiday. There's nothing. They don't even pretend.
Is that true that every month is that? I didn't know that.
Yes, Canada has one per month. Not only that, Canada, I've mentioned this before, in Canada it is illegal to open businesses on these unless you have special permits. Sophie's had to get a special permit once to be open on one of these holidays because it was Erev Rosh Hashanah, and they had to get a permit to prove that they were in a place where, from Jews needed food Erev Rosh Hashanah, and they couldn't be closed for a statutory holiday. So he's saying that's what Moshe Rabbeinu is doing. Okay. But listen to this amazing conversation. So what does Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai say back to him? Kara alav mikra zeh.
Do we comment on the fact that he says Moshe Ohev Yisrael?
Oh, yeah. I don't even know what to tell you. They're supposed to, right? So Tosfos says in 4 words, "Hakadosh Baruch Hu hiskim al yado." Right? Tosfos says this is the Stuki's argument. Moshe advocated to God and said, "God, the Jews need a long weekend, so make sure to have Shavuot on a Sunday." And God said, Taka, it's a great idea. We'll always have a long weekend. It's crazy. This is it's wild. But I'll read you here from the footnote in the Mesifta. They say L'chaur Amadu Amar Sham Moshe Ohev Yisrael Haya V'lachein Tiken Lam Shnei Yamim Haylam Lomer Shakadosh Baruch Hu Ohev Yisrael Haya. What is this complicated? Moshe advocated for long weekends, and God said yes. Just say God likes long weekends. God likes giving people long weekends. So they quote the Tzon Kachim and the Yad David. Shalor Ratzu Lomer Ken came into Makadosh Baruch Hu Tiken Lam Ken Lo Yatzarach L'Takim B'Shvil Zadavka Shetzarach HaShabbat Ela Sheyasu Shnei Yamim Kol Shem Ela Badei Hakadosh Baruch Hu Tiken Rakam Echad U'Moshe U'Vikesh Diach HaShabbat Kach Tiken Lam Shnei Yamim. Because here's how they imagine it. They said, look, if God really liked the Jews, you know what he should have done? Said in Sivan have a 2-day holiday. But he didn't. They imagined that what happened was God said, I think you should have a holiday 7 weeks after Pesach. And Moshe said, hey, a 1-day holiday? What's this 1-day holiday thing? We normally have 7-day holidays, but in prior having a 1-day holiday, can we have it on a Sunday? And God said, not a bad idea. In a chanami. Right? This is the argument that they ascribe to the Baitusim. Now, you want something even more disturbingly crazy? The next line in the Gemara, as you read through it, is amazing. What should Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai respond? What's his response? Moshe and God, they don't love the Jews that much. You think they care about them enough to give them a 2-day weekend, a long weekend? It's not true. It's not true. How do you understand how bizarre this whole conversation is? So he says to them, Kara aleihen mikra zeh, achar aser yom mechorev derech har seir. The pasuk says that how many days should it have taken the Jews to get from Mitzrayim to Eretz Yisrael? 11 days. And how long did it take? Moshe Rabbeinu Ohev Yisrael Haya Lama Icharon B'Midbar Arboim Shana. If God loves them so much, then why did he make an 11-day trip take 40 years? Aha! You see he doesn't like them that much? Aha! I got you!
How do you do this whole extra longer weekend anyway for them when it's time with extra times?
Now, I will point, obviously, Rashi says this is crazy. Right? Rashi says this is Dichli Ba'alma. This is just polemics. Right? Look at Rashi. He just says Dichli Ba'alma. Right? Kamar Le Mishum Dahaya Omer Divrei Hevel. He said, you're saying something stupid, so I'll respond with stupid. Right? This is not serious. I will say, by the way, this dialogue reminds me, Rav Lichtenstein has an amazing piece in one of his articles in Ma'anosh, where he says that people who think that rabbis who try to find kulos, clearly, where there's a rabbinic will, there's a rabbinic way, and they can do whatever they want. He's like, you clearly have never read halacha, because for every kula they come up with a chumrah, meaning they're trying to be honest. This is not like kula hopping and chumrah hopping. They're trying to be honest with the sources, and sometimes they're kulot and sometimes they're chumrah. Kacha zeh yotzei. But that's what comes out. What do you want? Now, of course, this is totally ridiculous because the reason it takes so long is because of sins and stuff like that. And Tosaf gets in a whole discussion on what this means. But okay, let's continue. So Amar Lo, the Baitusi realizes it's ridiculous. So what does he say? Rebbe, bekachat apotrani. That's the best you got, right? That's what you're kicking me away with. Amar Lo. And obviously, because the real reason they were there for 40 years is sin.
Right.
So what does he say? Amar lo shote. V'lo tehei Torah shlema shalonu kesicha betela shalochem. You fool. You think my Torah can't stand up to your worthless drivel? Kasuv echad omer tisbru chamishim yom. Kasuv echad omer sheva shabbat miyena. Ha'ketzad kan b'yom tov shechal liot b'Shabbat kan b'yom tov shechal liot b'emtza Shabbat. So he says something amazing. What does he say? Here's the drasha. One pasuk says 7 complete weeks, and one pasuk says 50 days. Now I want you to notice the following amazing. I don't know if you've noticed this. You read the Gemara, right? There's a drastic move of Rabbi Yochanan, because what did I say 5 minutes ago? That what's clear in this Gemara? That in Rabbi Yochanan's Hava Amina, he is so convinced that Shabbat means Yom Tov that isn't even part of the dialogue. Except what's his conclusion? How do I know that Shavuot doesn't always fall on Sunday? What's his drasha? One pasuk says Sheva Shabbatot Timimot Tihena, 7 complete weeks, and the other says Chamishim Yom. What's the difference? So what does he say?
It's off.
No, he says it depends. If Shavuot is in the middle of the week, then it's 50 days, but it's not Shabbatot Timimot. Why? Because according to him, what is a Shabbat? What is a Shavuot? What is a Shabbat Timimah?
Full week.
Meaning Sunday, a week that starts on Sunday. A week that starts on Sunday. So Rashi says, therefore, Yosef, the food's here.
What? Yeah, it's already on the street. I get it.
Oh. So, like I said, what's amazing here is that in the beginning of the polemic, it's Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is so convinced that he can interpret successfully Shabbat as meaning Yom Tov, that he doesn't even, there is no discussion about what's clearly the main drasha here, which is Mimacharat Hashabbat. And watch Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai make mamish 180 degrees. Because what does he say? Gavi, what's his drasha? So he says, there's 2 types of Shavuot. There's one which can only best be described as Chamishim Yom, because it's in the middle of the week. And one which can be best described as Sheva Shabbatot Timot Tihena, and that's if what?
If it's 7 full weeks starting on Sunday.
Sunday. Wait a second, which means what? Did you notice what he did? He did something so incredibly radical there. What did he do?
It's one or the other.
Yeah, and how does he understand Mimacharat Hashabbat? You understand?
As being Shabbat Bridge.
Yes! Right? Meaning he actually understands that one of the 2 possibilities is he thinks that there's a separate pasuk devoted to Shavuot on Sunday. Meaning, in his Havamina, he doesn't even entertain it. And what's his maskana? What does the Torah actually mean?
Shabbat Bridge.
The Torah, at least in one case, gives preference to Sunday. On which one? And think about it. This is how he reads the pasuk. Uspartem lochem mimacharat Hashabbat miyom aviyachem et omer tnufa sheva shabbatot timot tihena. What does he think that pasuk means? In that pasuk, what does the word Shabbat mean according to Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai?
Shabbat Bridge.
Shabbat Breshit. Right? Meaning, he doesn't even entertain that in his Hava Amina. And then, his Maskana, what he actually thinks the Pasuk means, is count 7 days from after Shabbat Rishit. He just happens to think it's only if the first day of Pesach was also Shabbos. But he actually thinks the word Shabbos means Shabbos. Right? When you realize that, that's completely crazy. Now, it's even worse because I'm going to read you 2 psukim and tell me how strange this drasha is. I want you to do just the following. Interpret the word Shabbat in the 2 psukim I read. According to Rabbi Yochanan, okay? Usvartem lochem mimacharat hashabbat miyom aviyachem et omer atnufa sheva shabbatot timotiyena. What does that Shabbat mean, Gavi? Shabbat Breshit. Next pasuk. Ad mimacharat hashabbat hashvit tisru chamishim yom. What does that Shabbat mean? Pesach, Yom Tov. It's like you read this drasha and it is crazy, right? It's mamish insane. He starts off. The polemic as the Gemara constructs it is not. It's Havamina. No one even bothers talking about Charat Shabbat. It's obviously Yom Tov. And then it's not the Baitusi who comes and says, Ma pitom, Mimacharat Shabbat means Sunday. Who says it? Rabbi Yochanan. Limaskana. That's what he actually thinks the pasuk means. But he thinks that's only if you have one particular thing. And it's worse than that. Why is it even worse than that? Because look at Tosfot. What does Tosfot say? V'im tomar halo safrin an element tet yom. He said, I don't even understand. How are you reading the pasuk? Because there's 2 problems in this. One is the problem I just said, is he switches, and in one of them he actually thinks Shabbat means Shabbat Breshit, and one of them it means Pesach. What's the second problem? What 50 days are you talking about? You count 49, man. Right? You count 49. I have no idea. I don't even know what he's talking about anymore. The Yesh Lomar, answer 1. Shelo tziva hakatuv l'sbor chamishim. Dahachi kamar kra ad mimacharat hashabbat shviit shehu yom hachamishim tisbor. This is how we reach the second pasuk. First pasuk is count 7 weeks from Sunday. Second pasuk means count 49 days until you get to the 50th day from Pesach, which we're calling Shabbat. That is his drasha. Second, inami, alternatively, Chamishim yom tisperu avihi krivtem de batreikai. V'hachi ka'amar. Ad mimacharat hashabbat hashvit tisperu v'lo ad bechlal chamishim yom v'kravtem mincha chadasha. Or you have to read this pasuk in a very convoluted way, which is until 50th days and not ad bichlal, you bring the new korban. I mean, like the drasha. This is what Rabbi Yochanan thought was the winning drasha that was unarguable. Okay? The one in which he actually concedes to what's arguably the best argument in favor of the Baitusim, which is that the pasuk literally calls it Shabbat. Mimacharat Shabbat. Okay? That's drasha 1. I literally just want to walk you through the Gemara, through the drashot, and if by the end of this you are convinced that Chazal are correct, right? I do want you to be convinced by the end of this, but I want to try to understand, because Chazal are, it's so surprising here. Okay. Second drasha. Rabbi Lezer Omer. Eino tzarich. I have a better proof. You don't need that. Good, because that drasha confuses me to no end. Says, Harehu Omer Tisbar Lach. Hasfira Tluya B'Veidin Shehem Yodin Lekadesh Yom Tov Yatza Shabbat Breshit Sisfirata B'Chol Yom. He says, I have a different drasha, and that is the following. The pasuk says, you shall count. So what does that imply? How does he read it? What's drasha 2? How does he know? Drasha 1 actually thinks Mimacharat Hashabbat in one place means Shabbat, and the other one it doesn't. He doesn't explain how he gets there. Drasha 2 actually tends to explain how Chazal knew that Shabbat meant Yom Tov. Again, Rabbi Yochanan doesn't think it does. What is it? He's medayik in the following: Tispar Loch. You should count. What does that make it sound like according to him? What's his drasha? Again, I'm really reading Pshat. I want to understand it. What does he say? What does Rashi say? Mash melachatehei misura hasfira lecham behei teis sifuda misura hasfira. What does he say? What's the problem with saying it comes from Shabbat? So I want you to understand his drasha. Tisbar lach, you should count. You could say the following. There are two ways of looking at this. One is, there is a reality out there, and you have to relate to it. Okay? Meaning, in 10 days, the world will come to an end, whether you like it or not. You should just count down. Okay? The world's not coming to an end, it just feels that way. Okay? The other is, the other would be to tell someone, look, I want you to pick your 10 favorite, whatever, 10 favorite fruits. Who's there? You're not asking someone to just relate to reality, you're asking them to be actively involved. And what's his drasha? Tispor lach. You control this count. And he says, what does that mean? What does that tell him? Shabbat, we relate to. It's be outside of us. The 7 days of the week just keep going. Yom Tov, we decide when Yom Tov is. Because we decide when Rosh Chodesh is. And therefore, he knows that this Shabbat must be Yom Tov. Or to give you another Gemara, which says this beautifully, the Gemara in Beit Daf Yud Zayin says as follows. On Shabbat Yom Tov, what is the bracha you say in the middle of Shemona Esrei? Good. The Gemara says, why Mekadesh Shabbat Yisrael v'Hazmanim? Why is Shabbat outside of Israel and Zmanim inside Israel? Right? And Gemara says, blessed is God who sanctifies Shabbat, the Jews and holidays. Why in that order? What does the Gemara say? Because Yisrael are not Mekadesh Shabbat. God sanctifies Shabbat directly because it's Kedusha v'Kaima. It's always holy. But Yom Tov God doesn't. He sanctifies the Jews and the Jews sanctify the holidays. So what this drasha is saying, you're right. Usually Shabbat means Shabbat Breshit. But it could mean Yom Tov. And how do I know it means Yom Tov here? Because this is not a count. Tisfor lach, he reads it not as relate to a reality, but create a reality. If it's creating a reality, it must be on the Yom Tov rather than the Shabbat scheme. That's his drasha. That's drasha 2. Okay? Rashi says this clearly. Shebeidin kovina moadot v'tzarich l'shol ematay chal Yom Tov rishon shel Pesach shematchil lemnot hasfiva mimocharat. V'yatzah Shabbat Breshit. Shabbat Mamash. Next one. Drasha 3. Rabbi Yeshua Omer. You're welcome to stay. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. What?
I already made myself full.
Okay. I figured. Rabbi Yeshua Omer, what does he say? Drasha 3. Gavi, take it. Rabbi Yeshua's drasha. Amra Torah.
Amra Torah Manayanim. V'kadesh Kodesh. Manayanim. V'kadesh Atzeret. Ma'chadash Sanuch L'viyato. Nikar Achatzeret Sanuch L'viyato Nikar. V'im Tamar Atzeret. No, Ma'chadash Atzeret. After Nikar. Mishon Fanecha.
Okay, what is this drasha?
So
this is not a straightforward drasha. Let's try to figure out what he's saying. It says, so what is the Torah? Let's try it again. Amra Torah Minei Yomim. count days, and then Kadesh Chodesh. Okay? Minei Yamim V'Kadesh Atzeret. Count and then sanctify. That's what we're asked to do. Af ma chodesh samoch leviato nikar. Rosh Chodesh. So this is essentially it's a binyan av of sorts. He says Rosh Chodesh. The pasuk says al chodesh yamim, which means count the days, and when you get to the right day, figure it out. And what's special about Rosh Chodesh?
There's a simon.
Correct. There is a astronomical event that heralds Rosh Chodesh. And he says, we compare conceptually Shavuot to Rosh Chodesh and say it must have a astronomical event which heralds its coming, which means that what must it be? The day after what?
The day after Pesach.
Why? Because what's Pesach?
It's the full moon.
Yeah, essentially, it's the full moon. Meaning it's an astronomically discernible event. And therefore Shavuot, like Rosh Chodesh, must be something that depends on astronomical events. Now, it's interesting, because he also says that this depends on Rosh Chodesh, except in the opposite way of the previous drasha. Because what does the Elazar say? What's the key here? It has to be something you create. Here he says, no. This is like Shabbat in the sense that it's responsive. You're responding to a reality external to you. But in what sense is it like Rosh Chodesh? Not that you create it, but that it depends on the astronomy rather than a unchanging cycle of 7. But it's coming at it conceptually from the opposite approach as the right? Because the first one ties it to the concept of Rosh Chodesh in the sense that you control it. He ties it to Rosh Chodesh in the sense that it's responsive. Right? You're responding to a reality outside of yourself. It's just not like Shabbat, which is an arbitrary reality, so to speak, rather than an astronomical reality. And therefore, because it needs to be something that you know it's coming by looking at the moon. That's his drasha. Again, where in that, according to, now what I want to ask you methodologically, drasha 2 and 3, how do they understand the word Shabbat?
To be Shabbat Rishon.
No, Yom Tov. But do they have any proof for that?
No.
Not at all. I mean, or I shouldn't say that. Do they provide any explanation of why Shabbat doesn't mean Shabbat Breshit? No, they just explain to you why the upshot has to be that Shavuot is not dependent on Shabbat Breshit. And once they do that, well, it must mean the word Shabbat means Yom Tov. Meaning, they don't bother proving to you that Shabbat can mean Yom Tov. They just say, Shavuot must not be dependent on Shabbat. Mimela, we'll come back and figure it out. We'll figure out how to read that pasuk. But the proof is external to the words Mimacharat Hashabbat. Right? Meaning, we first establish the parameters of Shavuot, and then we go back and reinterpret. Okay, that is drasha 3. By the way, before I go on, remember Tosfos who says, but wait a second, how do you count 50? Can you say we count 50 days? We only count 49. The Rush has a very different answer, which is important for you to know in life. What's the Rush's answer? I didn't expect you to know it, but guess. What do you think the Rush's answer is?
It would be from the first day of Pesach.
No, too fancy. The Rush says, no, the Torah rounds. That's it. The Torah rounds. And he said, and why is that important? Because think about it. Have you ever, When I was 7, in 2nd grade, I remember asking my teacher, why is every number in the Torah round? In every census, why is everything to the nearest 100 or 50? How is that even statistically possible?
It's not.
And you know what? So what does the Rosh say? The Rosh has an answer, which is
Doesn't always round.
No sense.
what?
No sense.
Yeah, and we round it. It's not a miracle. It's not a miracle. It didn't. It's just not. We round to the nearest.
But we
Oh,
not
no.
always.
What do we round to the nearest?
But to shekel we don't round.
Correct, but by the census. I was 7. Okay, it's a good question. The Rosh asked it too, right? And what does he say? He says there are rounds. And there was even a math professor who said, so why is it that 11 out of the Shvatim have hundreds and one of them has a 50?
Round.
Well, he said probably what happened was one Shevet actually had 50. And once it's 50, you can't round up or down. So every Shevet that was not exactly 50, you just round up or down. And the Shevet that hit 50, you don't. That's all. That's his argument. Right? That's his argument.
Wait, the Torah's aren't they exactly in terms of the numbers for like.
So the Rosh says no. And I'll give you another one.
I think no, it's like 600 something. Like we're talking about like Sinai.
No. Everything is like in Bamidbar. Everything is hundreds or 50.
Oh,
Right? There is no 103. Right? It's 74,600. Right? Yehuda is 74,600. It's my bar mitzvah parsha, so it's like, Bamidbar. Like, yeah. You just.
You were put a grade early in school. You were 7 years old in 2nd grade.
No.
You were turning 8 later in that year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe I was 8. Maybe it was the end of the year.
Okay,
I don't know.
I was put back.
It's 2nd grade, okay?
I was put back.
I don't know. I think it was 2nd grade. I'm pretty sure that's when I asked it. Anyways, I think it was 2nd grade. Maybe it was later. Anyways, maybe it was later. I remember asking the question, like sitting there and being like, "This doesn't make sense mathematically." But the Rosh has another one. What's another example of this? Which is much more surprising than this one. This is surprising enough. There's one which is very surprising, and that is, how many malkut do you get according to the Torah? 40. How many do malkut do Chazal understand you get? 39. What's the Rosh's answer? Big deal. So he called it 40. What do you want from my life? 39 is close enough. It's usher to give 40. You're not allowed to give an extra one. So how could you call it 40? The Torah rounds.
We didn't know they died on the 40th hit, so we got 39.
That's what he says. But that's important to know in general. Okay. What? And you're right, but the Bechoros, we do it precisely. There are accounts that we do that are not like this. Next drasha. Ready? Now, do you want to do this long Tosfot here? You got a flight for now?
Yeah, someone came to pick up my guitar and told me that they're there now.
Okay. Now, if you see, Tosfot has a long dion on this, right? Which is Perish Bakundris Labir Cheshvono Nikar Meimen Matchilim. No, Dahainu B'Yom Chavtet Mishat Molad Lefanav Etzeret Samuch L'Minyan HaChamishim Nikar Lehem Yom Kavua Dahainu B'Tetzayt V'Chodesh Marchad Yom Tov Rishon Shem Mamtin Ad Lachar Shabbat Ein Shem Heker Yom Kavua Tamam Shem Matchilim No B'Tetzayt Pam B'Yudzayt Pam B'Shmon Asar Pam B'Yutet. Right? He said the problem is that according to the Stukim, the Baitusim rather, there is no astronomical event. You'll never know because it could be a different day of the month. etc. So what does he say? There is a slight diyun. Rashi says, guys, Rashi says, what does it mean that this has an astronomical event? Simply that it's the same astronomical place every year. Tosfot says what I said, which is that the ikar is not that it's the same day of the month every year. What's the ikar? That there needs to be a precise way of looking at the sky and figuring out when Shavuot is going to be. And there are only 2 times a month when that's easy, which are Gavi, Rosh Chodesh and the 15th. Full moon and no moon. And therefore he says, that's what we know. It's not that it has to be a given day. The given day has to be related to the full moon. Either no moon or full moon. Right? So it's not, it has to be a set day. It has to be this particular set day.
Those 2 or full moon?
Well, Rosh Chodesh is the beginning,
right.
and Shavuot is dependent on the full moon because it comes after Pesach. Right? I mean, 7 weeks from Pesach, so you start counting from the day after the full moon. And therefore, Tosfot said it's not just that it needs to be totally on astronomy, it's that it needs to be dependent on a day that the average person can look up at the sky and say, oh, it's about to be Rosh Chodesh, or it's about to be the middle of the month. Those are the only times people can do it. Most people look at the moon, they can't figure out, is it the 7th, 8th, 6th, right? But the full moon and no moon, right? On the full moon, the werewolves come out and okay?
No moon, they turn back to me.
Exactly. No, it's really just the full moon, as we all know. His third pshat, after he has a little bit of a discussion about the way we do Tzdukim, if you look at the bottom of Tosfot, he says, V'od yesh lefaresh, ma chodesh samuch l'biato nikar, kol sha'al yidei cheshbon matay yavo, shel olam k'yavar shlosha mim rosh chodesh v'kashen chodesh. He says, the drasha goes like this. Rosh Chodesh, you can predict basically when the next one is coming. Because you know the cycles of the moon. Shavuot needs to be the type of thing that by calculating it in advance, I have an idea when it's coming. But if it moves around, I can't. That's his third drasha. Okay, let's move to the next drasha. Ready? Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So far, what have we seen? We've seen drasha, unspoken polemic is, Shabbat obviously just means Yom Tov. And then a complete about-face by Rabbi Yochanan who says, no, Shabbat in one pasuk actually means Shabbat, and the next pasuk, without any explanation, means Yom Tov. The next 2 drasha say, we know from context that the Shabbat here referred to must be Yom Tov. Possibility 1 is because it needs to be something you're in control of, rather than Shabbat which you're not in control of. Possibility 2 is it needs to be something, and there were variations on this, that depends on an astronomical event, and is distinguishable by an astronomical event, rather than Shabbat Breshit, which is not. Okay? 3 drasha down? Good? Understood? Good. Next one. Rabbi Shmuel Omer. Rabbi Shmuel says, I got a different drasha for you. Amra Torah, Hazeh Omer b'Pesach, Vishtei Alechem ba'atzeret. Ma lahalon regel utchilat regel, afkan regel utchilat regel. What does he say? What's the drasha? We derive it from context to what? A comparison between what 2 things?
Which day?
Between the fact that the Karban HaOmer is compared to what? Is connected conceptually to what? The Shtei HaLechem. Look at the drasha. Here he says the drasha is as follows. Conceptually, the Gemara, the Psukim are setting up the following connection. You bring a special grain offering on Pesach, and you bring a special grain offering on Shavuot. And he says, well, once you see that, so the one on Shavuot, we know that it is brought when? In relation to the Chag. When is it brought? Connected to the beginning of the Chag. How do we know that? because Shavuot is all of one day. It is connected to the beginning of the Chag. What time is it? 12?
We got 5 minutes.
Okay. I'm going proof by proof. The Mimacharat Hashabbat. It's like... What?
I'm good.
So, however many days this takes, we are going to do this. We are going to understand this by the end. Okay? We are going to understand this. I know this is not lumdish per se, but we are going to understand what this depends on. You know, it's not like chakiras as much as I just want to understand pshat really, really, really well. Okay? So far, I think I have, at least I understand the problems in Drashot. Okay? Good. What does he say? The Karban on Shavuot is connected to the beginning of Yom Tov. How do we know it's connected to the beginning of Yom Tov? Because there only is a beginning of Yom Tov. It's one day. And it's connected to the Omer, which means Mimacharat Shabbat must be some way connected to the beginning of Yom Tov. So what does this drasha do that the other two have not? It starts to more directly, what? Address Shabbat. How do we know Mimacharat Shabbat? What is its argument? We know that the issue here has something to do with the beginning of Yom Tov. And therefore, this is the first drasha that I think sort of attacks directly Shabbat, which is, we know from context that whatever it means to be connected directly to a Yom Tov. Which means that what? We must understand the word Shabbat in a way that will connect it to a Yom Tov. Tchilat Yom Tov, and not the middle. Right, so this drasha, I think, is the first one that starts to really hit on the word Shabbat. And Rashi says the problem is, right, therefore, if you would wait and you would bring it whenever, it wouldn't be samach to the beginning, it could be samach to the end. Right? It could end up being the end of Yom Tov, and we don't want that. Now remember we said that according to some, it's not just that, so Rashi says it might end up being the end, and the emphasis is tchilat, but Tosafot said it's even worse than that, because according to Baitusim, when might Shavuot fall out? When might the Omer start? After Pesach. If the last day of Pesach is Shabbat, then when do you bring the Omer according to Baitusim?
The day after.
The day afterwards. So Tosafot is even worse. Rashi says that you want to bring it at the beginning of Yom Tov and not the end. Tosafot said no. Once you say it means the day after the Shabbat of Pesach, there's a 1 in 7 chance that the Karban will be brought. Not on Pesach at all. But if you remember, that's a problem only for the Baitusim, but not for, if you remember, the Karaites, the medieval Karaites, because the medieval Karaites had the possibility that, what did Mimacharat Hashabbat mean? The Shabbat, the Sunday of Pesach, remember they had a 1 in 7 machloket, which is, if Pesach starts on Sunday, the Stukim say that what day do you bring the Omer? The first day of Pesach. And by Tusim, which is who the Gemara is actually prophesizing against, what day do you bring it? The day on Isru Chag. So this counterproof only works according to, as Tosafot understands it, the Baitusim. It doesn't work according to the Tzukim, because according to the Tzukim, it'll always be Pesach. It'll always be Pesach. It'll never be after Pesach. Rashi's proof Right? Tosafot's point doesn't work according to the Tzukim, which doesn't matter because they're responding to Baitusim, not the Karaites rather, because the Karaites are, 500, 600 years later. Right? They're not responding to that. Okay, that is proof 4. And like I said, I think that drasha is the first one that most directly tries to tackle the word Shabbat. When I looked at this, I was thinking it was an amud, but now that I go back to it, I'm like, no, it's a blot. Just keeps going. Like I said, as many days as this takes us, we're going to understand it, but I think it's worth really getting into. It's a little bit nitty-gritty, but I do want to understand it. And then we'll continue, okay? Good.